Captain Wu Jin stared at his screen with wide eyes. The numbers on his communication panel showed something that had never happened before in 300 years. Earth was completely silent. Not one signal was coming from the blue planet that had changed everything for the galaxy. Wu Jin rubbed his eyes and checked the equipment again. The machines were working fine. The problem was not with his ship, the Harmony's Edge. The problem was that humanity had stopped talking to the galaxy. This was very strange. Humans were the most talkative species in the known universe. They sent messages about everything. They shared their music, their movies, their arguments, and their ideas. They even sent signals just to say hello to empty space. Now there was nothing. Wu Jin pressed the emergency button on his control panel. A red light flashed across his small bridge. "All crew to stations," he announced through the ship's speakers. "We have a code yellow situation." His second officer, Lieutenant Min Su, came running to the bridge. "What is the emergency, Captain?" "Earth has gone silent," Wu Jin said. "No signals at all for the past 3 days." Min Su looked confused. "That cannot be right. Humans never stop talking. Maybe their equipment broke? All of it? At the same time?" Wu Jin shook his head. "Something is very wrong here." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Hyrie was having the same conversation on her massive ship, Unity's Dawn. The ship was so big that it looked like a floating city among the stars. It served as the main headquarters for the Galactic Coalition, a group of different alien species that worked together for peace. Admiral Hyrie stood in the center of the main command room. Screens and lights covered every wall. Hundreds of officers, from dozens of different species, worked at their stations. The room buzzed with activity, but today there was worry in the air. "Admiral," called out Commander Yun Seo from her station, "I am getting reports from all sectors. No human signals detected anywhere in the galaxy." Hyrie felt a cold feeling in her stomach. In all her years of service, she had never seen anything like this. "Send a message to all Coalition ships. Emergency meeting in 1 hour." The meeting room was huge and round, with seats for representatives from every species in the Coalition. When Admiral Hyrie entered, she saw that every seat was filled. This had not happened in over 50 years. The Vorthak representatives looked like living crystals, their bodies reflecting light in beautiful patterns. The Nebulan Collective appeared as floating clouds of gas with glowing centers that pulsed like heartbeats. The Synthesis Union sent their mechanical bodies, which moved with perfect precision. At the center of the room sat Ambassador Taeho, the human representative. But today he looked different. His usually confident face was pale and worried. His hands shook slightly as he held his datapad. Admiral Hyrie stepped up to the speaking platform. "Thank you all for coming so quickly. We face an unusual situation. For the first time since first contact, Earth has stopped all communication with the galaxy." A wave of concerned sounds filled the room. Clicking, humming, electronic beeps, and mechanical whirs mixed together as different species expressed their worry in their own ways. Commander So Young of the Vorthak delegation raised one of her crystal arms. "Perhaps there was a technical problem, some kind of system failure?" Ambassador Taeho shook his head. "I have been trying to contact Earth for 3 days. Not just the government communications, but everything. News broadcasts, commercial signals, even the amateur radio operators who never stop talking. Nothing." "This is most unusual," said Delegate Kyung Ho from the Synthesis Union. His mechanical voice was always calm, but today it carried a note of concern. "Humans have never been quiet for more than a few minutes in 3 centuries. The truth was something that none of the aliens in the room could imagine. 3 days ago, deep in space beyond Pluto, Earth's most powerful telescopes had detected something that made every human leader stop what they were doing and stare at their screens in horror. Dr. Jiwan stood in the secret command center buried, deep under the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with the best scientists, military leaders, and engineers that humanity could gather. Large screens showed images from space that looked like something from a nightmare. "Show them the data again," said General Minho, his voice tight with stress. Dr. Jiwan pressed a button, and the main screen filled with an image from deep space. It looked like a storm made of darkness, but it was moving between the stars. As it passed through solar systems, the stars went out one by one. This is what our deep space sensors detected 72 hours ago, Dr. Jiwan explained. It is coming from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy. Based on its speed and trajectory, it will reach our solar system in exactly 96 hours. What is it? Asked Admiral Dongwook, the head of Earth's space fleet. We call them the Devourers, Dr. Jiwan said quietly. We found records of them in the ruins we discovered on Kepler 442b. The civilization there left warnings carved in stone before they disappeared. The Devourers consume everything. They do not want planets or resources. They want to end all life in the universe. General Minho stood up from his chair. How many ships do they have? Ships is not the right word, Dr. Jiwan replied. The entire formation is over 1 light-year across. It contains millions of individual units, but they all seem to be part of one massive organism. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Humanity had less than 4 days to prepare for something that had destroyed entire galaxies. What are our options? Admiral Dongwook asked. We fight, General Minho said simply. We cannot run. There is nowhere to go. We cannot hide. They will find us. So we fight. With what? Asked Dr. Jiwan. Everything we know about warfare is based on fighting other human beings or the small conflicts with other species. This is different. This is fighting against something that wants to end everything. Back on Unity's dawn, the coalition meeting was getting more worried by the minute. Ambassador Tejo had been silent for most of the discussion, but now he stood up. I need to make something clear, Tejo said. My government has not told me why Earth has gone silent. I am as worried as all of you. This is very concerning, said Representative Heian from the Aquatic Collective. Her tank of water allowed her to speak, though her voice was filtered through translation equipment. Humans are usually very open about their problems. When they had the plague of 2387, they asked for help immediately. When their economic system crashed in 2392, they shared their concerns with everyone. That is what makes this so frightening, Tejo admitted. If humans are not talking, it means something is very, very wrong. Meanwhile, Captain Wu Jin was still trying to get some response from Earth. He had moved his ship closer to human space and was now broadcasting on every frequency he could think of. Earth, this is the Coalition vessel Harmony's Edge. Please respond. We are concerned about your welfare. Is anyone receiving this message? Static was the only answer. Lieutenant Minsu looked up from his station. Captain, I am detecting some unusual activity in the outer solar system. What kind of activity? There are ships moving around the gas giants, but they are not following normal traffic patterns. It looks like they are building something. Wu Jin frowned. Building what? I cannot tell from this distance, but there are a lot of ships, more than I have ever seen in one place before. On Earth, time was running out. In secret facilities around the world, humans were working on the biggest project in their history. They were not just building weapons or ships. They were building something that had never been tried before. Captain Byung-ho stood on the bridge of a ship that did not exist in any official records. The Defiance was humanity's newest creation, built with technology borrowed from a dozen different alien species, but it was also built with human ideas that no other species had ever thought of. How long until the weapon systems are online? He asked his chief engineer. 6 hours, Captain, came the reply. The nullifier array is the most complex thing we have ever built. What exactly does a nullifier do? Asked the navigation officer. It creates zones where energy cannot exist, Byung-ho explained. Not just heat or light, but any form of energy at all. Absolute zero in every sense of the word. Will it work against the Devourers? We hope so. According to the ancient records, they feed on energy. If we can create areas where energy cannot exist, maybe we can stop them. Around Earth's solar system, similar ships were taking their positions. Humanity had spent 3 days in silence, but they had not been idle. Every resource, every factory, every brilliant mind had been focused on one goal: survival. But survival was not enough. The ancient records were clear about what happened to species that just tried to defend themselves against the devourers. They lost. Every single time. Dr. Ji-Wan stood in front of a new screen that showed the solar system. Red dots marked the positions of human ships and weapons. Blue dots showed the locations of their secret installations. And from the edge of the screen, a cloud of darkness was approaching. 93 hours remaining, she announced to the room. General Minho looked at the tactical display. Are we ready? Ready is not the right word, Admiral Dong-wook said. We have done everything we can in the time we had. Whether it is enough, we will find out soon. The coalition is getting more worried, Repo. The hidden shipyard beyond Pluto looked like a metal forest growing in the darkness of space. Thousands of construction robots worked without stopping, building ships that had never been seen before. The design was human, but the technology came from dozens of different species. Admiral Dong-wook floated in his command suit outside the main construction platform. Even through his helmet, he could hear the sounds of welding, cutting, and assembly. The noise never stopped. It had been going on for 3 days straight. How many ships do we have ready? He asked through his radio. Engineer Jae-sung answered from inside the construction control room. 237 completed. 412 more will be finished in the next 24 hours. That is not enough, Dong-wook said. We need at least 1,000. Admiral, we are working as fast as we can. We have every construction facility in the system building ships. We even have civilian factories making weapon parts. Dong-wook looked out at the darkness beyond the shipyard. Somewhere out there, death was coming toward them at incredible speed. Work faster. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Ji-Wan was studying the most frightening collection of artifacts in human history. The underground museum had been secret for over a century. It contained relics from dead civilizations that humanity had found on distant worlds. Each item told the same story. Advanced species that had lived for millions of years with technology far beyond what humans could understand. All of them had left the same warning before they disappeared. Beware the darkness that comes from between the stars. Dr. Ji-Wan picked up a crystal tablet that glowed with its own light. The writing on it had been translated years ago, but she read it again anyway. They come without warning. They consume light itself. Stars die in their presence. We tried to fight. We tried to run. We tried to hide. Nothing worked. If you find this message, know that we face the end with courage. Do the same. General Minho entered the museum, his boots echoing in the quiet space. Any new information? The same story everywhere, Dr. Ji-Wan replied. Hundreds of different species, all with the same message. The devourers have been moving through the galaxy for millions of years. How did they all lose? Some of these civilizations were incredibly advanced. Dr. Ji-Wan pointed to another artifact, a metal sphere covered in strange symbols. According to this one, they tried to fight using conventional weapons. Energy beams, explosive missiles, particle accelerators. The devourers absorbed it all and became stronger. What about running away? Several species tried that. They built massive ships and fled to other galaxies. The devourers followed them. It seems like they can sense life across any distance. General Minho sat down heavily in one of the museum chairs. So we cannot fight them and we cannot run from them. What can we do? We do what no other species has ever tried, Dr. Ji-Wan said with a strange smile. We cheat. Back in space, Captain Byung-ho was testing humanity's most secret weapon. The Defiance looked like a normal warship from the outside, but inside it contained technology that should not exist. Charging the nullifier array, announced the weapons officer. All crew prepare for test firing, Byung-ho said over the ship's speakers. Remember, if this works, we will create a zone where energy cannot exist. That includes the energy in our own bodies. Everyone put on life support suits. The crew moved quickly to follow orders. Byung-ho watched through the ship's cameras as they aimed at a small asteroid about 1 kilometer away. Fire, he commanded. Nothing seemed to happen for a moment. Then, the asteroid simply vanished. Not destroyed, not blown apart, it just stopped existing. Did it work? Asked the navigation officer. The science officer checked his instruments. The asteroid is gone, but so is everything else in that area. No light, no heat, no radiation, no gravity. It is like a hole in space. How long will it last? According to our calculations, about 30 minutes. Then normal space will return. Byung-ho nodded. That might be enough time to stop a devourer ship. Assuming they cannot adapt to it, the science officer added quietly. On Unity's dawn, Admiral Hyrie was dealing with panic. Representatives from every species in the coalition were demanding answers about Earth's silence. Some were suggesting military action to find out what was happening. We should send a fleet to investigate, declared Commander So-young of the Vorthak. If humans are in trouble, we have a duty to help them. And if they are not in trouble? Asked Delegate Kyung-ho of the Synthesis Union. What if they have chosen isolation for reasons we do not understand? Ambassador Taeho had been quiet for most of the meeting, but now he stood up. I have received a message from Earth. The room fell silent instantly. Every being present turned to look at the human representative. What does it say? Admiral Hyrie asked. Taeho's hands shook as he read from his datapad. It says, to all coalition members, Earth is facing a situation that requires our complete attention. We apologize for our silence, but we cannot explain at this time. Please maintain distance from human space for your own safety. We will contact you when we can. That is all? Commander So-young asked. There is one more line, Taeho said quietly. If we do not survive, remember that we chose to face the darkness standing up. A chill filled the room. Species that had never agreed on anything suddenly shared the same feeling of dread. What kind of threat could make humans act like this? Asked Representative Hae-in. Something bad enough to make them stop talking. Admiral Hyrie replied. Captain, Wu Jin was closer to human space than any other coalition vessel. His long-range sensors were picking up more and more activity around the outer planets of the solar system. Captain, Lieutenant Min-soo called out. I am detecting massive energy, signatures near Jupiter. What kind of energy? I have never seen anything like it. It is like they are building artificial stars. Wu Jin frowned. That is impossible. No species has that kind of technology. The readings are very clear, sir. There are at least 12 new energy sources in Jupiter's orbit, each one as bright as a small sun. Get me a visual. The main screen filled with an image that made both officers stare in amazement. Floating near Jupiter were structures that looked like metal flowers, each one hundreds of kilometers across. At the center of each structure was a ball of pure energy that burned like a captive star. What are they building? Min-soo whispered. Before Wu Jin could answer, his communication system came alive with an automated message broadcast on all frequencies. Attention all vessels. You are entering a restricted military zone. Leave immediately or you will be destroyed. This is your only warning. The voice was human, but it sounded different somehow. Harder, more determined. Set course away from the solar system, Wu Jin ordered. But keep our sensors active. I want to know what they are doing. On Earth, time was running out faster than anyone wanted to admit. In the secret command center, a huge timer displayed the remaining hours, 67, and counting. Dr. Ji-won stood in front of a new display that showed the approaching devourer fleet. The dark cloud had grown larger, and now they could see individual shapes within it. Each shape was the size of a small moon, and there were thousands of them. They are slowing down, she announced to the room. General Min-ho looked up from his tactical planning. Why? Unknown. Maybe they are studying our system before they attack. Admiral Dong-wook joined them at the display. Or maybe they sense something different about us. Different how? Every other species that faced them tried to fight using their own technology, Dong-wook explained. We are using everyone's technology. Human engineering, Vorthak energy systems, synthesis computers, nebulon field generators. Maybe they have never seen that before. Do you think it will make a difference? Dr. Jiwan asked. We will find out. Soon enough. Across the solar system, humanity's secret preparations were nearly complete. The artificial stars near Jupiter were fully operational. The nullifier weapons were installed on every ship. The evacuation of non-essential personnel from Earth had finished, but the most important part of the plan was still being built. Captain Sujin commanded a squadron of the smallest ships in the human fleet. Her fighters were fast and nearly invisible to sensors, but they carried the most dangerous weapons humanity had ever created. Squadron leader, this is base command, came a voice through her radio. Status report. All 24 fighters are ready, Sujin replied. Stealth systems are working perfectly. We are completely invisible unless we want to be seen. Remember your mission. You are our eyes and ears. When the devourers arrive, you will be the first to make contact. Do not engage unless ordered. Understood. But what if they detect us? Then you run. Your job is to survive long enough to report what you see. Sujin looked at her instrument panel. Everything was working perfectly, but she felt nervous anyway. In a few hours, she would be face to face with something that had destroyed entire civilizations. All pilots, this is squadron leader, she announced to her team. Final equipment check. Make sure your nullifier charges are ready and your stealth systems are working. 23 voices responded with confirmation. Young men and women who had volunteered to be humanity's first line of defense against the impossible. Back on Unity's dawn, Ambassador Tae-ho received another message from Earth. This one was different. To the Galactic Coalition, he read aloud. Captain Sujin felt her heart beating fast as her fighter approached the edge of the solar system. Through her cockpit window, she could see something that made her hands shake on the controls. The stars were disappearing one by one, as if someone was turning off lights in the darkness. Command, this is Scout Leader, she spoke into her radio. I have visual contact with the enemy. What do you see? Came the reply from Admiral Dongwook. They look like ships, but wrong somehow, like someone took metal from 1,000 different worlds and melted it all together into horrible shapes. Through her binoculars, Sujin could see the devourer ships more clearly. Each one was the size of a city, but they moved through space like living things. Parts of their hulls seemed to breathe, and strange lights flickered under their dark surfaces. How many are there? Asked Admiral Dongwook. Sujin tried to count, but there were too many. Dozens in the first wave, maybe hundreds, and there are more coming behind them. Can your sensors tell us anything about their technology? Lieutenant Bong-su, Sujin's science officer, checked his instruments. Captain, these readings make no sense. Their ships are absorbing all forms of energy around them. Light, heat, radio waves. Everything just disappears when it gets close to them. Command, did you hear that? We heard it. Continue observing, but stay hidden. Sujin watched as the first devourer ship approached Neptune. The ice giant was beautiful in the sunlight, its blue surface covered with swirling clouds. But as the alien vessel came near, something terrible happened. The planet began to change. Its blue color faded to gray, then to black. The clouds stopped moving. Even from millions of kilometers away, Sujin could see that Neptune was dying. Command, they are killing planets just by being near them, she reported. Back on Earth, Doctor. G1 watched the same thing happening on her instruments. The readings from Neptune showed temperature dropping rapidly toward absolute zero, not just on the surface, but all the way through to the core. They are not just absorbing energy, she announced to the command center. They are destroying the ability of matter to hold energy at all. General Minho looked at the tactical display. How long before they reach Jupiter? At their current speed, 18 hours. And our defenses? Admiral Dongwook activated the main display. The solar system appeared as a three-dimensional map filled with red and blue dots. All our ships are in position. The artificial stars are running at full power. The nullifier weapons are charged and ready. What about the coalition evacuation? Communications. Officer Sujin looked up from her station. Admiral Hyeri reports that all inhabited worlds within 100 light-years are being evacuated. But it will take weeks to move everyone. We do not have weeks, General Minho said grimly. We have less than a day. On Unity's dawn, Admiral Hyrie was coordinating the largest military movement in galactic history. Every available ship was being used to move civilians away from the danger zone. But it was not fast enough. Admiral, reported Commander Yoon Seo, we have moved approximately 40% of the population. At this rate, we will need another 10 days. We do not have 10 days. Increase the evacuation speed. How? We are already using every ship we have. Admiral Hyrie looked at the tactical display showing human space. The dark cloud of devourer ships was getting larger every hour. Send a message to all coalition members. Any ship that can carry passengers should join the evacuation immediately. Ambassador. Tejo approached the Admiral's command station. What about Earth? Are humans evacuating their own people? I do not know. They are still not talking to us. The truth was that humanity had made a difficult choice. While the coalition evacuated other worlds, Earth's population was staying to fight. Every man, woman, and child who could hold a weapon or operate equipment had volunteered. Captain Byung-ho stood on the bridge of the Defiance looking at his crew. They were young, most of them barely out of the academy, but their faces showed determination instead of fear. All stations report ready, announced his first officer. How many ships do we have in the first attack wave? 250, all equipped with nullifier weapons. Byung-ho nodded. Remember, we are not trying to destroy them all. We just need to slow them down and learn how they fight. What if the nullifiers do not work? Then we try something else. Humans are good at adapting. Meanwhile, Captain Su-jin was still watching the Devourer fleet from her hidden position. What she saw next made her stomach feel sick. Command, they are changing formation. The ships are connecting to each other. What do you mean connecting? Physical connections, like metal cables or tubes. They are becoming one giant structure. Through her sensors, Su-jin watched as hundreds of individual ships joined together into something that looked like a vast web of dark metal. The structure was so large that it blocked out entire sections of stars. Command, the connected structure is over 1,000 kilometers across, and it is still growing. Dr. Ji-won heard this report and checked the ancient records again. I found something, she announced. The Karathi mentioned this. When Devourer ships connect, they become much more powerful. How much more powerful? Asked General Minho. According to this, a connected fleet can drain the energy from an entire star in minutes. Admiral Dong-wook felt a chill run down his spine. Our sun? If they reach it, yes. The command center fell silent except for the sound of computers and radio chatter. Everyone understood what this meant. If the Devourers reached the sun, not only would Earth die, but their artificial stars would also lose power. We cannot let them get close to the inner system, Admiral Dong-wook decided. We attack them at Jupiter. That is 4 hours ahead of schedule, General Minho pointed out. Then we move up the schedule. Send the order to all ships. Attack. Formation now. Across human space, hundreds of ships began moving toward Jupiter. They came from hidden bases in asteroid fields, from construction yards near the gas giants, and from secret facilities that had never appeared on any official. Captain Byung-ho received his orders and felt his heart rate increase. All crew, this is the captain. We are moving to attack position. In 1 hour we will face an enemy that has never been defeated, but we are human, and humans do not give up. The crew responded with cheers that could be heard throughout the Yao ship. Captain Woo-jin was still at the edge of human space, watching everything happen on his long-range sensors. What he saw amazed him. Lieutenant Minsu, look at this, he said, pointing to his screen. Human ships are coming from everywhere. I count over 500 vessels. Where did they get so many ships? Last month, our records showed humans had maybe 200 military vessels total. They have been building them in secret. Look at the designs. I have never seen anything like them. The human ships looked different from anything in the galaxy. They were angular and sharp, with strange projections that hummed with energy. Most unusual of all, each ship trailed a line of light behind it, as if it was connected to its own personal star. Captain, Minsu said quietly, I think we are about to see something that no one has ever seen before. What do you mean? Humans, fighting for their survival. Back near Jupiter, the first confrontation was about to begin. The Devourer web had grown even larger, now stretching across 2,000 kilometers of space. Its surface was covered with weapons that looked like living things, tentacles that moved independently, mouths that opened and closed, eyes that watched everything. Captain Su-Jin and her squadron had moved closer to get better readings. What her sensors showed made no sense according to normal physics. Command, the enemy structure is not just absorbing energy, it is absorbing space itself. Reality gets weaker the closer you get to them. Explain that, came Admiral Dongwook's voice. My instruments show that time moves slower near their ships. Gravity does not work correctly. Even light bends in impossible ways. Dr. Jiwan checked her calculations. That matches the ancient records. The Devourers do not just consume energy, they consume the basic forces that hold the universe together. How do we fight something like that? Asked General Minho. With something they have never seen before, Dr. Jiwan replied. Pure creation energy. Admiral Dongwook gave the order that would change galactic history. All ships, this is Fleet Command. Execute Operation Sunrise. The human fleet moved into attack formation, but instead of heading directly toward the Devourer web, they spread out in a huge circle around Jupiter. At the center of the formation, 12 artificial stars burned with the power of newborn suns. Captain Byung-ho watched his tactical display as the plan took shape. All weapons crews prepare nullifier arrays. Target the connections between enemy ships. Sir, his science officer called out. The enemy is responding. They are moving toward us. Through the ship's cameras, Byung-ho could see the Devourer web changing. Parts of it detached and began floating toward the human fleet like massive metal spiders. Each one was larger than the biggest human battleship. Here they come, he announced to his crew. Remember your training. Remember what we are fighting for. The first Devourer unit reached the outer edge of the human formation. It was met by Captain Min-jae and the destroyer Swift Arrow. All weapons fire, Min-jae ordered. The nullifier beam hit the Devourer ship and something incredible happened. The alien vessel did not explode. The artificial stars around Jupiter burned brighter than anything humanity had ever created. Captain Byung-ho watched from the bridge of the Defiance as waves of pure creation energy washed over the Devourer web. For a moment, it seemed like the plan was working. Then everything changed. Captain, his science officer called out in alarm. The enemy is adapting to our artificial stars. On the tactical display, Byung-ho could see the Devourer web growing new structures. They looked like massive mirrors made of living darkness, and they were reflecting the starlight back toward the human fleet. All ships, evasive action. Admiral. Dongwook's voice crackled over the communications system. Do not let the reflected energy hit you. But it was too late for some ships. The destroyer Morning Star took a direct hit from reflected creation energy and began to change. Its metal hull started glowing and reshaping itself into something that looked more alive than mechanical. This is Morning Star, came a panicked voice over the radio. We are losing control. The ship is changing into something else. Captain, Su-Jin watched from her hidden position as the destroyer transformed completely. What had been a human warship was now something that looked like a living creature, made of metal and light. It turned toward the other human vessels and began firing, weapons that no human had ever designed. Command, Su-Jin reported. The Devourers are not just absorbing our attacks, they are learning from them and using our own technology against us. Dr. Jiwan heard this report in the command center on Earth and felt her heart sink. This is exactly what happened to the other civilizations. The Devourers turned their enemies, weapons into part of their own fleet. General Minho looked at the tactical display with growing worry. How many ships have we lost? 12 confirmed destroyed, 8 more converted to enemy units, reported Admiral Dongwook. And they are still adapting to our nullifier weapons. It was true. Each time a human ship fired a nullifier beam, the Devourers seemed to understand it better. The spheres of nothingness that had worked so well at first were now being contained. and absorbed by the enemy web. We need to try something else, General Minho decided. What other options do we have? Dr. Jiwan checked her files of ancient records. There is one thing. The Karathi mentioned something called the Final Protocol. What is that? I am not sure. Their record was damaged, but they said it was their last hope when everything else failed. Meanwhile, Captain Wu Jin was still watching the battle from the edge of human space. What he saw amazed and terrified him at the same time. The human fleet was fighting with incredible bravery, but they were clearly losing. Captain, Lieutenant Minsu said quietly. Should we help them? With what? Our ship has basic defensive weapons. We would last maybe 30 seconds against those things, but we cannot just watch them die. Wu Jin looked at his communication system. He had been trying to contact the coalition fleet for hours, but they were too far away to help. Even if they came at maximum speed, the battle would be over long. Before they arrived, send a message to Unity's Dawn, he decided. Tell Admiral Hyrie what we are seeing. Maybe the coalition can at least evacuate more people before those things spread to other systems. On Unity's Dawn, Admiral Hyrie received Wu Jin's report and immediately called an emergency session. The coalition representatives gathered quickly, but this time there was no debate about what to do. The humans are losing, she announced to the assembled aliens. Their weapons work for a short time, but then the enemy adapts and becomes stronger. Ambassador Tejo sat with his head in his hands. There has to be something we can do. The evacuation is our priority, declared Commander So Young of the Vorthak. We must save as many lives as possible before the enemy spreads. But what? About Earth? Tejo asked. What about the billions of humans still fighting? The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer, but nobody wanted to say it. Back in the battle, things were getting worse by the minute. The Devourer web had grown larger and was now sending out hundreds of smaller units. Each one was a perfect copy of destroyed human ships, but twisted and changed into something horrible. Captain Byung-ho found himself fighting against a creature that had once been the human cruiser Braveheart. Its weapons were familiar, but they fired dark energy that seemed to eat holes in space itself. All weapons target that thing's engine section, he ordered. The Defiance's nullifier beams hit their target, but instead of destroying the converted ship, they seemed to make it stronger. The dark energy weapons began firing faster and with more power. Captain, our weapons are not working, reported the weapons officer. Every time we hit them, they get stronger. Byung-ho made a decision that would have seemed crazy under normal circumstances. All power to engines, we are going to ram them. Sir, that will destroy us too. Better than letting them turn us into one of those things. But before Byung-ho could carry out his desperate plan, something unexpected happened. A new voice came over the communication system, not human, but speaking perfect Earth standard. Human vessels, this is Captain Wu Jin of the Coalition ship Harmony's Edge. We are coming to assist you. Negative, Coalition ship, Admiral Dong Wook responded immediately. Stay away from the battle zone. You do not have the weapons to fight these things. We do not have your weapons, Wu Jin replied. But we have something else. We have ships from every species in the galaxy. On his long-range sensors, Byung-ho could see them coming. Hundreds of coalition vessels from dozens of different species, all heading toward the battle at maximum speed. They are going to get themselves killed, he said to his crew. Maybe, his first officer replied, but they are coming anyway. The coalition fleet was unlike anything that had ever been assembled before. Crystalline Vorthak ships that could bend light around themselves. Gaseous nebulon vessels that could pass through solid matter. Mechanical synthesis ships that could repair themselves instantly. Energy beings from the galactic core who existed as pure thought given form. Admiral Hyrie led them from Unity's Dawn, her massive flagship bristling with weapons from a dozen different technologies. All coalition vessels. She broadcast on all frequencies. We are going to do something that has never been attempted before. We are going to fight as one unified force. Captain Wu Jin checked his weapon systems. His ship was not designed for major combat, but it was equipped with standard coalition defense systems. All crew prepare for battle. We are about to face an enemy that has destroyed entire civilizations. Lieutenant Minsu looked nervous but determined. Captain, why are we doing this? These are not our people. Because, Wu Jin replied, if humanity falls, we are next, and because it is the right thing to do. The Coalition fleet hit the Devourer web like a wave of different colored lights. Each species brought their own unique weapons and tactics. The crystalline Vorthak ships created prisons of solid light that trapped enemy units. The gaseous Nebulan vessels passed through Devourer ships and disrupted them from the inside. The mechanical synthesis units analyzed enemy weaknesses and shared the information with everyone else. For a moment, it seemed like the combined fleet might actually win. Then the Devourers adapted again. Dr. Jiwan watched the battle from Earth and saw the same pattern repeating. They are learning from the Coalition weapons just like they learned from ours, she reported to General Minho. How long before they figure out how to counter everything? Based on their previous adaptation rate, maybe 30 minutes. General. Minho looked at the countdown timer. They had been fighting for 6 hours and the enemy was only getting stronger. What about the final protocol? Did you figure out what the Karathi meant? Dr. Jiwan pulled up the damaged ancient record on her screen. I think I understand now. The final protocol was not a weapon. It was a choice. What kind of choice? They chose to destroy themselves rather than be converted. But not just suicide. They took the enemy with them. How? Dr. Jiwan's hands shook as she worked at her computer. By overloading every power source they had at the same time, the energy release was so massive that it created a new star and destroyed everything, within a light year. General Minho stared at her. Are you suggesting we blow up our own sun? Not blow it up. Make it bigger. Much bigger. If we overload all our artificial stars and our real sun at the same time, the energy release might be enough to destroy the Devourer web. And us too. Yes. And us too. In space, the combined human coalition fleet was fighting desperately against an enemy that seemed to grow stronger with every passing minute. Converted ships that had once belonged to their own side were now attacking them with weapons they recognized but could no longer defend against. Captain Byung-ho's ship was badly damaged, and half his crew was injured. Around him, other human vessels were in similar condition. The coalition ships were holding up better, but even they were starting to show signs of wear. All human vessels, came Admiral Dongwook's voice over the radio. Prepare to receive new orders. What orders? Byung-ho asked. There was a long pause before Dongwook answered. We are going to try the final protocol. Captain Sujin heard this transmission from her scouting position and felt her blood turn cold. She had heard the scientists talking about the final protocol. She knew what it meant. Command, this is Scout Leader. Are you sure about this? The countdown reached 9 minutes, and across the solar system, humanity prepared for the end of everything. On Earth, Dr. Jiwan watched the artificial stars begin their final overload sequence. Each one was burning brighter than it ever had, before preparing to release all their energy at once. All artificial star stations report ready, she announced to the command center. Solar overload sequence will begin in 8 minutes. General Minho looked around the room at the men and women who had worked so hard to defend their world. Has everyone who wanted to evacuate been given the chance? Yes, sir. Transport ships left Earth 6 hours ago. They should be far enough away to survive. What about the people who stayed? Dr. Jiwan checked her reports. 2 billion people chose to remain. They are all in the deep shelters, but she did not need to finish. Everyone knew that the shelters would not protect them from what was coming. In space, the battle continued with desperate intensity. Captain Byung-ho's ship, the Defiance, was barely holding together. Half his weapons were destroyed, and his engines were failing. But he kept fighting. Captain, his weapons officer called out, I have an idea. What if we ram one of our artificial stars into the Devourer web? That would detonate it early, Byung-ho replied. Exactly. Maybe we can cause a chain reaction. Byung-ho thought about this for a moment. Do it. All power to engines. We are going to push that star right into the middle of their formation. The Defiance limped toward the nearest artificial star, its engines struggling to provide thrust. Behind them, the Devourer web was growing larger every minute, absorbing more ships and converting them to its own use. Captain Su-jin watched from her fighter and realized what Byung-ho was trying to do. "All fighters follow me. We are going to help the Defiance push that star." Her squadron of 24 fighters joined the damaged cruiser in its impossible mission. Together, they began pushing the artificial star toward the enemy web. Meanwhile, Captain Wu-jin and the coalition ships were fighting their own desperate battle. His small ship was not designed for combat, but his crew had found creative ways to use their systems. "Use the sensor array as a weapon," he ordered. "Overload it and aim the energy burst at that converted ship." Lieutenant Min-soo looked confused. "Sir, that will destroy our sensors." "We will not need sensors if we are all dead in 8 minutes." The overloaded sensor array created a beam of pure electromagnetic energy that hit the converted coalition ship. For a moment, the twisted vessel seemed to remember what it used to be. Its weapons stopped firing, and it drifted away from the battle. "It worked," Min-soo shouted. "The ship is remembering its original programming." Admiral Hayeri heard this report and immediately understood the implications. "All coalition vessels, overload your sensor arrays. Target any converted ships from your own species." Across the battle zone, coalition ships began using their own equipment as weapons. The technique was dangerous and destroyed the ship's ability to navigate, but it was working. Converted vessels were remembering their origins and turning against. The Devourer web. On Earth, the countdown reached 5 minutes. Dr. Ji-won began the solar overload sequence, sending commands directly to the sun's core through a network of satellites that humanity had been building for decades. "Solar core temperature increasing," she reported. "Fusion rate climbing beyond safe limits." "How long until the sun explodes?" asked General Minho. 4 minutes and 30 seconds. In the command center's main display, they could see the battle happening around Jupiter. The Defiance and its escort of fighters were still pushing the artificial star toward the Devourer web, but they were taking heavy fire. "They are not going to make it," someone whispered. Then Captain Byung-ho's voice came over the communication system. "All ships, this is the Defiance. We are going to ram speed. If anyone wants to say goodbye, now is the time." Admiral Dong-wook responded immediately. "Captain Byung-ho, it has been an honor serving with you." "The honor was mine, Admiral. See? You on the other side." The Defiance and its fighter escort accelerated toward the Devourer web, pushing the artificial star in front of them. Enemy weapons tore through their formation, destroying fighters one by one. But they kept going. Captain Su-jin's fighter was hit by dark energy that began eating through her hull. "Squadron, this is Leader. My ship is finished, but I can still control it for another 30 seconds. "Su-jin, eject," came Byung-ho's voice. "Negative. Someone has to guide this star to the target." Her fighter, trailing smoke and sparks, continued pushing the artificial star, even as it fell apart around her. With 30 seconds left before the sun exploded, the artificial star finally reached the Devourer web. The impact was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The star did not just explode, it seemed to tear a hole in space itself, creating a zone where the normal rules of physics did not work. The Devourer web, which had been growing stronger by absorbing energy, suddenly found itself trying to consume something that was pure creation, the birth fire of a new star. The reaction was catastrophic. The web began to convulse and twist as parts of it were created and destroyed at the same time. Converted ships suddenly found themselves changing back to their original forms, then changing again, then changing back, in an endless loop that tore them apart. "It is working," Dr. Ji-won shouted. "The creation energy is disrupting their ability to absorb and convert." But the main Devourer structure was still intact, and it was adapting even to this new attack. Admiral Dong-wook made the final decision. "All remaining ships, form up around the other artificial stars. We are going to ram them all at once." Every human ship that could still move began pushing the remaining artificial stars toward the center of the Devourer web. Coalition vessels joined them, using their own unique abilities to help guide the massive sources of energy. Captain Wu Jin's ship was barely functioning, but he guided it toward one of the stars anyway. All crew, it has been an honor. We are about to do something that no one will ever forget. Around the solar system, the remaining artificial stars began moving toward the Devourer web like a formation of miniature suns. Each one was pushed by ships that knew they would not survive the collision. With 10 seconds left before the sun exploded, all the artificial stars reached their targets simultaneously. The explosion was visible from other star systems. 12 artificial stars detonating at the same moment created a burst of creation energy so powerful that it temporarily outshone Earth's sun. The Devourer web, caught in the center of this incredible explosion, found itself being created and destroyed and recreated in an endless cycle that its ancient mind could not understand or absorb, but the real explosion was still coming. Dr. Jiwan watched the countdown reach 0. Solar overload in 3, 2, 1. Earth's sun exploded. But this was not a normal supernova. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 3 days, building a network of control satellites and energy directors that would shape the explosion. Instead of expanding in all directions, the solar explosion was focused and controlled, creating a beam of pure creation energy that stretched across the entire solar system. The beam hit the remains of the Devourer web, and something impossible happened. The ancient entity that had consumed 1,000,000 worlds began to change. Instead of absorbing the energy, it was being rewritten by it. Its dark purpose was being overwritten with something new. The desire to create instead of destroy. Captain Wu Jin, somehow still alive in his damaged ship, watched as the Devourer web transformed. The twisted metal structures began reshaping themselves into something beautiful. The weapons that had fired dark energy now created fields of light. The ships that had once consumed planets now began emitting waves of life-giving energy. Command, he reported in amazement, the enemy is not being destroyed, it is being converted. On Earth, in the deep shelters where humanity waited for death, people felt something strange. Instead of the crushing heat of nuclear fire, they felt warmth like sunshine. Instead of radiation that would kill them, they felt energy that made them stronger. Dr. Jiwan checked her instruments in disbelief. The explosion worked exactly as we hoped. The focused creation energy is passing harmlessly through matter but transforming everything it touches. What about the Devourers? They are becoming something new, something that creates instead of destroys. Across the galaxy, the Coalition evacuation fleet stopped their desperate flight as sensors detected something unprecedented. The wave of energy expanding from Earth's solar system was not destructive. Instead, it was bringing dead worlds back to life. Admiral Hyrie watched as barren planets in the energy wave's path suddenly began showing signs of atmosphere and water. "This is impossible," she whispered. "No," said Ambassador Tejo, tears streaming down his face. "This is human." In the aftermath of the explosion, the transformed Devourer web began to speak. Its voice was transmitted on every frequency, in every language known to the galaxy. "We remember," it said slowly. "We were not always destroyers. Long ago, we were gardeners of stars, creators of worlds, but we forgot our purpose and became consumers of the very thing we once nurtured." Captain Byung-ho, miraculously still, alive in his heavily damaged ship, responded to the transmission. "What will you do now?" "We will remember our original purpose. We will plant new stars where we